Hey, good morning, everybody. Jeff Slakey and Spencer Hughes here on the Friday edition of Daybreak. On the phone line, we have Mason County Sheriff Casey Salisbury, also Dave Windom, our health director for Mason County, getting us through coronavirus. Today's a big day, guys, as today's the day the governor has mandated that masks be worn. Dave, what can you tell me a little bit more about this and how and what's the governor saying here?
Okay, so actually the order is from the Secretary of Health. So the governor did the announcement, but the order comes from the Secretary of Health. So the Secretary of Health really falls underneath the State Board of Health, who is in charge of all the health of all Washingtonians. So that's outlined in the Constitution. They give him their authority, and he is the one who brought the order forward. And it's Order 20-03 from the Office of the Secretary of Health.
And this order, does it have, I'm seeing a lot of folks that are pretty unhappy with what's going on here starting today. And is this enforceable? Because I'm seeing different sides of the perspective here on how this order works and what it really means.
Well, if you read the fine print in RCW, and I can give you those RCWs that people might want to know, it's RCW 43.70.130 and RCW 70.05.070. And there's some enforceability there, and that is just not the direction we are heading.
Sure.
That is would be a tough use of resources. Our resources are better in education and getting people kind of around the COVID crisis in total rather than enforcing this mask wearing thing. So it's there, but that's not the focus that the county is going to take.
Sheriff, let's talk a little bit about that. If you see a gathering of folks or one of your deputies is near a business and notices a gathering, what's going to happen there? Will the deputy have a mask and talk with the folks about the order from the health director, or how will this work out, you think?
Well, I'm sure there'll be probably somebody that calls and complains about something. If we get a complaint, if somebody's still there by the time we get there or something, we can certainly talk about it. As Dave mentioned, and we have put out a statement from the Washington State Sheriff's Association, the State Patrol, and most of the agencies in the state of Washington regarding the covering directive, that it's going to be educational purposes. I know that, Jeff, I look at this a little bit differently than maybe a lot of the sheriffs or a lot of people. My background is in public health, and believe it or not, and that's what I went to school for. But it's not because of that. I grew up in this community, and I look at a lot of the people that were business owners and people that were my teachers when I was a kid that are now in that vulnerable group of people that we keep talking about. I also know some young kids that have their special needs that are vulnerable to this with breathing associated disorders. And my point is let's just be respectful. If I'm asked to wear a mask somewhere that might not even be covered on this because it makes people feel better, it will keep us safer, I'm willing to do that. Do I agree with every single thing that's written in here and how it's going? Not exactly. Am I going to come out yelling and screaming about one thing or the other? No, I choose to look at it, and our office looks at it to be respectful to other people and other people's health. So it's not this solid black and white order that they're trying to make it into, on the written word of the paper. It's the educational purposes of it.
Dave, this has really become a political issue almost, where one side of the spectrum does not feel that the masks are necessary or even helpful in any stretch of the imagination, where the other side of the aisle perhaps is a little more compliant with these orders. That's got to be difficult it's just, can you explain why you think it's become so political and how difficult it is for the safety and health of everybody when there is these two opposing sides on this issue?
I think it relates, Jeff, to kind of the polarization that's going on so many different issues. I mean, we saw it last year with vaccines. You have a very adamant crowd about using them and an equally adamant crowd about concerns about effectiveness and safety. So using that as a background, I can see how these things split people apart. And what we're trying to do is to say, if you look at the tools that public health has in the toolbox, the first tool that was used was the stay home, stay healthy order. And, it did bring down the peak, which was the goal, but it also was, very hard on our economy. And that's just not a tool we want to use again. That's just not a place that we'd like to go. And I think that even the Secretary of Health was talking about that. But we have this tool, which is a mask, and given the choice of wearing a mask or going back to this very expensive thing where people lost their jobs and lost their livelihoods, homes, the mask is probably the least expensive method and tool that we have currently in the toolbox until a vaccine comes out, and there's no guarantee on when that may happen.
Are you concerned as you look across the country and the numbers, the 7-day averages that seem to really be spiking? I see that the numbers in Washington, and I know that like Yakima County is an outlier that's pushing the rest of the state up and types like that, but those 7-day trends seem to be back on the rise. Is there conversations? We just got into phase 3. If this does not work out, are there conversations to have to go backwards?
Yeah. Well, the governor certainly said he'll take us backwards. Secretary of Health said he'll take us backwards. That certainly is not our goal. What we're finding is many of these cases are family related, especially when you have family gatherings where there's a lot of touching, hugging, that sort of thing. Weddings, for example, are a great example.
Yeah.
And it's getting passed that way. And we're able to track that. We're getting very few cases of what I would call caught in the wild COVID, where we have no idea where it came from. Is caught at a store or something. We have almost no cases out. It's really a familial transmission.
I mean, is that because of those early orders by the governor, and then we saw that early work in at least the Shelton School District to kind of tighten things up and lock things down? Is that a direct result of that? I'm seeing other states now that did not take that first initial real tight ratchet, and they're now starting to do that. I noticed that Texas is putting a hold on elective surgeries, which is something we did, a few months ago. So I just see these trends across the rest of the country, and I wonder, I get that masks are the best way to do this right now. And are you guys able to? Do you have extra masks available for people? Or are you still encouraging people to make their own? And then what does this order really do now for folks? Do you have to, if you're in a business, do you have to wear a mask? Is it up to the business owner, or how's that work?
So to answer your last question first, that order's been out since the 8th of June.
Right.
It requires the businesses and the employees to wear masks. So there's no change there. And there is no requirement in Mason County through this order for business owners to require someone to wear a mask before they come into the store. It's that business owner's choice. In Yakima, it's a different deal. Yakima, it's required to buy or sell. So, but that is not the case in Mason County. I want to be really clear about that.
Right. Okay, well, I guess we'll continue on through this. We are now in phase 3, so the health department is sending out biweekly updates on their updated information, unless there's emergency information to share along. So we'll continue to do that. As we move through the weekend and into the summer, these gatherings are likely to only increase, especially as I start to see, this is around the time that the school's out and there's the traditional car shows and people are getting pretty antsy. And it seems like this, like you said, this is the most cost effective way to keep commerce moving to avoid having to shut everything down again.
There's a great resource online on the governor's webpage. It's on, how to get started. And it's a business form and it's a fill in the block. And check the box sort of a form that shows how your safety steps that you would take to open a business. And what we've encouraged, especially nonprofits to do and churches to do, is go pick up that form, and it really walks you through the mindset of the things you need to look at to keep your population safe, whether it's a church group or a car club or any other civic organization. It's a although it's designed for business, it is great for nonprofits.
Yeah, I took go ahead, Case. I was just going to say, I saw, I was talking with Karin Leaf and Jennifer Barria from the EDC, and they showed me that form, and it was very comprehensive and a good checklist for everybody, because as we were talking with them, who knows who from the state may come by and take a look to make sure that you are fully complying with all those orders.
Yeah, I think when we're talking about the compliance on these things, Jeff, I'd like to move to say is that Mason County is been in a pretty good position, and the reason for that is I think when people choose to draw the hard line in the sand on one side or the other, I think they start to lose perspective of what the overall goal is on this, and it's to keep people healthy, and none of us want to be having to deal with this right now. And as we move through this, I would just ask that the people that seem to be doing well and getting along well are the people that extend a little bit of grace to other people and a little bit of respect. And that seems to be moving us along real well in Mason County. When you start drawing the hard line in the sand that I'm going to do this or I'm going to do that, it just creates controversy and makes it more difficult for everyone. So we're looking forward to moving through to ask for voluntary compliance and just for people to be respectful of others and extend a little bit of grace as we move forward, so that we can continue in a good position that we are in Mason County.
Dave Windom and Casey Salisbury on the air this morning as the start of the order from the Director of Health for the state, but announced by the governor earlier this week. Thanks, guys, for talking with me, and we'll check in next week and see how this has been. It'll be a week the next time we check in.
Okay, take care.
See you guys.
Bye-bye.